What is up? Welcome to Skyfire News. We're doing a week review. It's Friday. We had a lot going on this week and even a lot more going on today. So we want to catch you guys up to speed so we can go into the weekend fully informed and we can talk to our friends at the parties and at the barbecues like we know what we're doing. What's up, Red? How you doing, man?
Doing great, Chupa. Excited to do the show. We got a lot of interesting things that happened this week. Hyped.
Dude, I'm hyped too. This has been a great week of our show. This is easily my favorite week.
Yeah, let's run through it back. What did we do this week? We had a lot of fun.
Oh, man. Let's see. What was Monday a holiday? Am I tripping? Am I tripping?
I'm looking it up right now.
Yeah, let's get into it.
It was a holiday. But we did the reptilian episode. That was sick.
Oh,
we did the Matt Forward breakdown. We did the Kim Galladay breakdown. UAP Disclosure Fund breakdown. And then we had Trump right before that. So yeah, it was pretty fire.
Oh yeah. Okay, cool. Well, I'm sweating it. It's like literally my favorite week. So it's great momentum going into summertime. I feel like summertime is the right time for UFOs. That's what I think. And I look back on a lot of these cases and I see a lot of July and August dates. In June too. It's cool.
Roswell.
So yeah, man. Exactly. And it goes on. I was just surprised. I was filling out, just doing research. I'm like, holy shit, June, July, August. These things come up so often. I think it's maybe because people are outside more, but who knows?
I think so. Let's shout out the chat real quick. We got Montezuma. Yes, hell yeah. Happy you're here, Montezuma.
Mm-hmm.
Our member, Gabriel Lindez. Tupa Skyfire Red Panda win. Let's go.
Yeah.
Another member, we love our members, a girl named Tom. I'm going to get you high today because it's Friday. You ain't got no job and don't have shit to do. Let's go.
So true.
Derek Dougherty, I got my wizard robe and tinfoil hat. That's TV. Ben Friel, let's go. Super Water, awesome. What up, everyone? Thomas Souls, this week has chafed my hemorrhoids. I hope everyone else's week went well. Yeah, we're glad you're here. Thomas, Tube Cobra, longest week for real. Hell yeah. Maximo, 2 and RPK.
Yeah, Maximo, good to see you, man.
Let's go, Skyfire. Sorry, I'm going there kind of fast.
No, we're good.
The person formerly known as Kimby says, hi, I'm Kimball.
Aw.
Pizza Slayer says, let's effing go. Hey Ocean says, the only news I watch, even when at work. Ganga Today says, you still live, God is good. Dove didn't get you. That's towards Kimball, because Kimball was having a Kimball episode last night. Dan says, hey, I heard there would be a magic card tournament. Uh-oh.
There is. We're
Someone's
doing it all
from the Skyfire camp.
We do it in the astral realm though, so it's easier and the internet bill is cheaper. So
casual links there right at the end. Hey, Skyfire is on. Let's go. Hell yeah.
We certainly are on. We're trying to bring you the news every day. Although I will say, every once in a while, not so much, but you know what I mean? Not bad. 5 days out of the week, pretty good. And Red, what's going on? What's the main thing that you think, the most exciting part of this week? That not just the what we've covered so far, but things we haven't covered. I've seen stuff in the docket that, you know what I mean? It just, the momentum keeps building. Ross Coulthart, you know what I mean? It just keeps stacking up, man.
So this show we're going to be running through. Kamala Harris had some comments on UFOs that were kind of not really great, but still worth covering, right? She's the vice president.
Damn.
Japan announced some UFO organization investigation group, so that's interesting. We're going to cover that. We're going to cover what else is there? Oh, the 1-year anniversary of David Grusch.
Congratulations, David! You made it.
Going to do a little bit of a retrospective, and then we're going to look at what Gametech politics and Tucker Carlson have been saying, and pretty much they're saying it's demons, and that we're dealing with demons. So we're going to look at some of those clips and statements and just make sense of it all.
I'm excited about that.
Oh yeah, you've been saying this, right?
Forever. I started saying it because it was the hardest thing to say. It was for me as a UFO believer and a fan, I'll say it, you know what I mean? The idea that these things could be anything other than, confirmation that life is everywhere, and we're not the main, we're not on the main stage of the universe, and it's our ego that makes us think, all that stuff. And then I just started to really analyze it through the work of like Diana Pasulka, Gary Nolan, and whatnot. And it's like, you know what? Even though it's uncomfortable, I think it's one of the things that I should start like looking into and facing, so I can, remove it from the options or keep it in. And I find it like kind of counterculture-ish in a sea of counterculture fringe researchers, so I ride with it.
Oh yeah. Well, I guess let's just get into it.
Yeah.
So first we got Kamala Harris.
You have the top level security clearance, right? You have it's as high as it can get.
Yes.
So when you become vice president officially, when you're sworn in, have you ever found yourself in a situation where you're like, you know what, I'm just curious from a personal level about something like whether it be UFOs or JFK or Jimmy Hoffa or any of these things that we all want to know what happened? Have you taken those steps to look into those things?
I am interested in a number of those subjects.
Yeah.
A little faded. Kind of stumbled that out weirdly.
I feel like she has a couple little bottles of vodka like in her like pockets at all times. Like the green room must be her favorite place.
Yeah. Also, let's shout out our member Courage first hopping in here. Let the UFO spotting begin, and a little Pop-Tart in the mix. Let's go.
Yeah, little Pop-Tart. Dan Freeman, Courage first. Dude, we got Coin Exchange in here. This is a good crowd.
Good mix in the mix today.
And then did you tell somebody like, hey, I'd like to see whatever files, and then somebody delivers them to you and you sit there and go, whoa.
I'm not giving you any more than I gave you.
That cackle. If you didn't think someone could beat Hillary Clinton's cackle, you didn't meet Kamala Harris yet.
So what did you make of this, yo?
I think this is kind of like business as usual when it comes down to this upper tier, like the top tier, you know what I mean? Like the emperor or whatever, that they're interested, they've looked, but they're not going to tell you. And then it's kind of like a comedy relief. It's weird. It's like it builds tension, and then it's a really good way to like have a comedy moment where they're just like, like Obama. Right, the aliens exercise strict control over us, and it's like, well, is that a joke?
Well,
or
that's
not?
a great point, bro. Because I'll bring this up. We've covered a lot of big level UFO statements happen on these late night shows, which I personally think are just fully propaganda. Right, these late night like we all remember what all these shows did during COVID. Not to make it super political or anything, but I will also say I feel like when a vice president or a president goes on one of these shows, I feel like the entire thing is like pre-planned, pre-approved. You know what I mean? So I will say it is interesting that she's even getting asked about it. I do think her response is kind of dumb, straight up. But like the fact that it was even asked, and as we've shown on this episode, we should do a whole episode on that, just like late night show disclosures. Because Obama, the biggest statement on UFOs from president was on one of these late night shows. You know what I mean?
No, I actually think it was Kimmel's too. He loves asking about it. It's like part of his platform. Isn't like in what show was it that Hillary Clinton debuted UAP?
Yeah, wasn't it like Colbert or something like that?
Yeah, I feel like that was another late show grab. So yeah, that would be great. All this compilation of all these like leaders laughing about UFOs would be great.
Yeah, late night show propaganda stuff, but yeah, I don't know. So, and then someone in the chat's like, "What did she even say?" She really didn't say anything. She just said like, "Yeah, I looked into it." But she's not going to say more than that, right? So
yes, yeah,
pretty weird.
But cool. I mean, it just happened. This is water cooler. You know what I mean? Fodder right now.
This literally happened like 2 nights ago or a night ago. Forget which. I will move on. Boom. So this happened. Japan UFO hotspot. UFO investigations launched in Japan after a U.S. report designates region as a hotspot for sightings. UFO sightings should not be dismissed because they could in fact be surveillance drones or weapons, say Japanese lawmakers, who launched a group on Thursday to probe the matter. Probe the matter? They're funny, huh? The investigation comes less than a year after the U.S. Defense Department issued a report calling the region a hotspot for sightings of mysterious objects. The nonpartisan group, which counts former defense ministers amongst its 80-plus members, will urge Japan to ramp up abilities to detect and analyze unidentified anomalous phenomena, more commonly known as UFOs, or unidentified flying objects. Interesting. I have this little report that I never released from like a few months ago about one of the Japanese lawmakers who's super involved.
Congressman Yoshiharu Asakawa of Japan has been very vocal about the UFO issue
Honestly, I didn't even watch it tonight. I'm pretty sure it's not complete, but let's just have fun.
in his own country. Congressman Asakawa was present at the Mexico UFO hearing in September. Following the Mexico hearing, Congressman Asakawa introduced legislation in the Japanese Congress to establish a UFO
Audio.
Sounds good.
office. Congressman Asakawa presented his UFO legislation in front of the Japanese Prime Minister. And recently, Mexican ufologist Jaime Maussan interviewed Congressman Yoshiharu Asakawa about his UFO legislation.
Would you please explain to us what your proposal was and what happened?
In fact, I have spoken about the topic at my Congress on 2 occasions. The first in November and later in December. Both interventions were during the security sessions of the Chamber of Deputies and where I had the opportunity to ask some questions to the new Minister of Defense. What I proposed in the December session occurred in the following way. I explained that in the United States, an organization has been established to collect information and evidence of unidentified anomalous phenomena. Why don't we create a similar organization in the Japanese government that does exactly the same thing? The response of the Minister of Defense to my proposal was not immediate. He did not say, yes, let's create an organization. But it caught a lot of their attention. Since he is very critical, he told me that they are going to take into account my position as well as my concern to propose policies from that moment on and from then on, considering the presence of these unidentified anomalous phenomena. What allowed me in those defense scenes is that the President of Japan's defense, Mr. Kihara, was a commercial pilot for Japan's best-known airline. What allowed me in that session to share with him and my colleagues a detailed report with a report of my visit to the Congress of Mexico, the audience to which I was invited. This is the report I shared. After presenting it, I had another opportunity to ask more questions, and that's when I noticed that his attitude had changed significantly.
So there you go. There's this congressman. Let's see if it's going to let me. But that's a little report. And then so he's actually kind of like, I wanted to be on a still of him when I talk about him. I'm afraid it's not going to let me. Maybe I'll just play it again from the beginning. He's the one who, as it showed in the thing, he went to Mexico and he spoke there.
Now that's
kinda
interesting.
like
I saw Ryan in the mix over there. So like he was there during the rollout of the mummies and everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Hell yeah,
Yeah,
dude.
he's kind of like the Japanese timber chat and
Really?
searching for these stuff. And actually, I don't know if you know this, and when we eventually do a mummies episode, the mummies are actually pretty popular in Japan. Like him going over there and the mummies getting rolled out kind of had a different reaction than in America.
Hey, is there a Japanese Paulina Luna asking for a friend?
Oh, I don't think so. Not yet. Soon,
Okay.
I'd be lit.
He's sick.
So yeah, this is kind of the build up to this, and that actually was pretty sick. I forgot how good that was.
No, that was great. I mean, doesn't Japan have like a couple different like hot spots and like not like cults or religions, but like, you know, a lot of fanfare around some of these Japanese. Like there's like a small town in
that
Japan.
Vice documentary.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then this happened next. This was kind of the build up to this news of like this week. There's shouts out metamaterial. Japan's top spokesperson comments on the UFO panel that is being stood up in Japanese Parliament, admits that UAP remain unidentified, and says that the national security environment is far harsher now. Therefore, the efforts by defense to identify must be strengthened. Very strange.
In
That is
space,
strange.
unidentified vehicles in space. In case we identify those, the reporting and analysis need to be done root and branch matter. And so far, we have not received any reports that we are able to identify those objects up in space. So the national security environment around Japan has become far harsher now, and the defense need to be fulfilled to the fullest. So unidentified vehicles in space, and including that point, that any object, any phenomena that could hamper our national security need to be identified. We need to cover all
So yeah, what do you think? Too bad there's Japanese stuff, pretty closely stuff around the world, right?
I love it. I mean, Japan's one of the countries I would want to watch, and I'm going to watch when it comes to this, because they, their culture is different. Their belief systems are very like spirit first, physical second. You know what I mean? There's a lot of interest in there about like energy and stuff, and I wonder if that has any effect on how they're perceiving or even interacting with the phenomenon. So, of all the different cultures out there that probably do interact with it, yeah, Japan's one of the ones I'm keeping my eye on, because they're open about it, and their country's super, super dense. I mean, it's densely packed. One sighting is probably multiplied by a lot, and then I also wonder how much secrecy their government has around the topic too. So I love.
Well, you have to remember too, they got nuked, right? And then also, wasn't there a bunch of UFOs reported around their Fukushima 2011 earthquake nuclear disaster? So they have some kind of like nuclear connections to UFOs.
Yeah, and like the earthquake lights, and I mean, even before the earthquake, I mean, there was all these stories about people seeing like spirits and stuff. So yes, this is fascinating. I'm glad they're in the game.
Hell yeah!
I'm glad.
All right, let's go to the next story. What do I think we got here? Oh yeah, so I forgot to say this in the beginning, dude. Ross Coulthart. So this past weekend, and I still hopefully we get an update from Kent and John, but there was 2 big UFO conferences, right? There was the Contact in the Desert in Coachella Valley area, and there's also the SCU conference in Huntsville, Alabama, which is it was kind of billed as the more scientific of the two. You know what I mean? They had these competing, and I think they probably scheduled it even on purpose to make that statement as the same weekend. But Ross Coulthart was the keynote speaker there, and he dropped a bunch of bombs too. But do you have any thoughts on this interview before we run through some of the highlights that stood out?
No, I want to just let it ride. Because, I mean, Ross seems like a very interesting guy, and he's on the case, boots on the ground. He knows so much, and I'm glad he's connected with News Nation. Let's hear him out.
Yeah, and real quick, Ross is an investigative reporter, so for anyone who doesn't know, he was part of like 60 Minutes Australia and whatnot. His critics will say, maybe kind of fair, he did kind of get like some stuff wrong with like some allegations of a pedophile ring in like the UK government, but there obviously probably is that stuff. But he did break the Grusch story, and since like 2020, he wrote that book, In Plain Sight. He's been kind of one of the forefront investigative journalists, like mainstream, palpable on this subject, right? So it's cool.
There's a hefty weight of declassified government files that prove the bleeding obvious that sections of the US military and intelligence community know a hell of a lot more than they're letting on. My favourites are the discoveries in cables from, for example, the US Air Force attaché in Kabul, Afghanistan, reporting the discovery of a physical flying saucer 15 metres in circumference with thick, small glass windows. That doesn't sound like a satellite or space debris. And apparently the Russians beat the Americans to it. We don't know what happened to that object. There's also a heavily redacted CIA memo from 1968 describing a metallic disc-shaped object with a 6-foot base, 4 feet in height, that was found in a crater in Nepal. This is one of a series of documents that refers to a covert program known as Project Moondust, which it's long been suspected was involved in retrievals not only of foreign adversary technology, but also of non-human craft.
So that was pretty wild. He's saying that UFO crashed in Kabul, but the Soviets got it.
They got there first.
And a UFO crashed in Nepal. And then I've never heard this Moondust thing. Have you heard this?
No, I was about to look it up. Project Moondust. And that's like about a crash retrieval program? Wild.
Allegedly.
Wow. 15 meters in circumference, thick glass windows. Sounds like a submarine to me, but very weird.
Enigma Seeker says, I'm sick of Ross, LOL. Yeah, he's kind of a polarizing figure, isn't he?
He just keeps climbing up. So we see him more and more. Like, you know what I mean? We're watching his success, right, in the UFO community. We're watching it happen in real time. Going from 60-minute guy to like, hey, I'm going to start looking into this, and then climbing, not a ladder, because I don't think he's climbing a ladder. I think he's trying to get closer to the answers. And so, yeah, I really like, I can understand why people are getting sick of him. I don't think we haven't even seen half of him yet. Like, there's more he's going to be involved in more. If these stories break, if they begin to start breaking the buried UFO built with a building built around it, this kind of stuff, he's going to be in the mix heavy. So get used to him if things go his way.
Yeah, and Enigma Seeker says he's been part of the plan too. Lou is talking with him. He's definitely in that camp. I do think he's well intentioned though, and even some of the weird harassment stuff that we say, he's kind of in his own way spoken about it. I know he's very close with Project Unity and whatnot. I don't know. I feel like he's doing his best. I feel like
he has the. Sorry, go ahead.
I feel like he's doing his best, and like maybe sometimes he'll get something wrong, but he did break the Grusch story, right? Like when Grusch was part of the UAP task force, and he did do that interview and whatnot.
Very true. Very true. Yeah, I think he's a grinder, dude. He's a grinder. And his show with Bryce Zabel, I thought was really, really good. Very grounded. And Bryce seems like a chill dude as well. So I'm glad that they're paying attention. He doesn't seem to be liking, commenting, encouraging any kind of harassment or weird defense network. So that's cool too. I give him a lot of credit for that, right? Because it seems to be in the playbook. So
he did have that one comment where the DoD people should be stoned or tarred and feathered, which was a little sus there.
So nowadays I'm all about the fatty. You better get some. Too busy hating, ain't getting none. Me, I'm all about the fatty. They getting none. Me, I'm all about the fatty. Yeah, they ain't ready for.
Dan, the friend I was asking about, a few yen for Japanese Paulina Luna on Skooma for a night at the inn. Agreed. Also, solid narration, Red. When we get a video, Red, of yours and the narration kicks in, it's like, hell yeah. Your narration, because it's iconic because of your videos, you know what I mean? So I honestly think the fans, I think the fans, the fam, I think they all go nuts when they hear it. And especially if it's exclusive to Skyfire, because it's like, dude, hell yes. But we love it. We love it.
Hell yeah, that came in clutch, dude. I forgot all about that. That was like 2 months ago. But yeah, so more snippets from this raw speech. Let's listen.
We've just got to keep on digging. I mean, it's there. It really is. I mean, the incredible thing is I've had conversations with scientists in the program who are angry that they can't do what we're all doing here. Sharing and discussing ideas, which is the fundamental idea behind good science, peer review. My understanding is that a large part of the technological breakthroughs that should have happened with this technology, if this is true, haven't been able to be achieved because, frankly, we haven't been able to share ideas with other scientists, particularly in materials science, who might be able to advise how things are constructed. I spoke to one guy who told me he'd worked for 20 years on one particular object, but it was so compartmented, he'd only ever been able to look at videos and photographs and descriptions of the object. He'd never been allowed to physically touch it. Think about that. And every year he would come to his office, sit in that office, and he wasn't allowed to talk to the people in either office, either side of him, and discuss what it was that he was working on, and neither were they. This whole program, if it exists, of course, is so heavily compartmented that it's constraining the discovery of scientific advancements that could benefit all of humanity, not just a select group of people in private aerospace who I suspect have made the decision that this is theirs.
All right, so interesting stuff there, right? I mean, I definitely feel like that's a truth that we often hear from other people, that like it's over-compartmentalized. What do you think about that, Tupa?
20 years on the same object and never getting to see it? Could you, I mean, dude, no way. No way. After year 2, I'd be like, okay, this is frustrating as shit. What am I doing here? You're giving me random numbers. Are we building a virtual device? Is this thing, is it really out there? I'd be very, very concerned. 20 years? That's a company, man. He must have been an Eagle Scout or something. 20 years.
This is the other thing, too, which kind of goes into this next point where it's like, okay, bro, but like at what point do some of these people, are they kind of like equivalent gatekeepers, like Kirkpatrick or whatnot? You know what I mean? Like, you know somebody who worked on a UFO program for 20 years? Like, let's get that person out. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Dude,
for sure. For sure. Free that man. Free my guy. Give him a tour of the UFO. Let him fly in it, dude. 20 years of his life devoted to finding these secrets out. And this reminds me too of Eric Weinstein's conversation with Hal Puthoff about fundamental physics breakthroughs being held behind closed doors since World War II. It backs that up as well. So shout out to Hal, shout out to Eric and Jesse.
Shoot, an Apollo astronaut's plane just crashed. That's sad.
What?
Maybe we'll watch it at the end. It's a pretty wild video. But let's go to the next clip. Yeah, and I think the next clip we have, he's kind of touching on some of the stuff I just mentioned. Let's see.
And by the way, if anybody ever did decide to push me under a bus, believe me, every name of every person that I've been told, I haven't been able to verify it, so I can't publish it. Everything I know will be published by multiple people who I've sent copies of what I have all around the world. I'm mindful of the fact that I do know people have been murdered. And that's a big call, I know. People have been murdered to protect the secret.
Dark.
Yeah, so he's got a dead man switch now too. It seems like everyone's saying this kind of dark stuff lately, right? What's going on here?
Mm-hmm.
On one hand, I will say I think he was in the mix with Amy Eskridge, like up until she died. I think he was communicating with her, so there's that. But on the other hand, I do know he gets some of his info from Lou, and Lou literally just kind of got outed from Danny Sheehan for hyping up these kinds of threats, right?
That's true. That's true. There's no checks and balances for these guys, like even like Ross, right? I like Ross, but there's, because he's just saying things that he's heard. No one has to hold him over the coals for this. It's like, I could have gotten bad info. But yeah, very
we need
strange.
to have like a dead man switch day where just like him and Greer and Lou and Grusch, just put it all out there all on the same day, guys. Go do it from the same stage or something like that. Do it at Lou's ranch, and I'll be part of the human chain around you. But
you know who would really love this, right? Is Elon Musk. If these guys were able to convince Elon Musk and release the videos and all their data through Twitter, I bet you Elon could keep them safe for a period of time. And they would continue to have a platform on Twitter to be able to just spill the beans. You know what I mean? But maybe we'll never know.
yeah. All right, let's continue along here. This last one is pretty wild too. What do you do? This one is, dude. Okay.
But I know, for example, Trump's been briefed. You know what's going on? He's scared. He's scared they're going to kill him if he reveals what he knows. That's what I've been told. You have a situation where your potential president is terrified of speaking about the UAP issue because he's scared they're going to knock him. I'm not kidding you. I'm not making this up. This is serious. You have a national scandal at the heart of this. It's not just about UFOs. It's about your country. It's totally screwed unless you resolve this issue. It should be the dominant political issue. If you can get this secret out, the world will change overnight. And I've heard that from people in the program. They're deeply, deeply angry that this secret is being suppressed. They see no good reason. One of the reasons it's being suppressed is because America has made weapons, dreadful weapons. Are you proud of that? Is that really what we want to do from technology that we've obtained by using offensive weaponry against a fairly benevolent non-human intelligence? Is that really how we want to define our first contact? Because that's what we're talking about here. And I don't know how to communicate this more seriously.
So there you go. He says Trump has been briefed, but he's afraid that he will be murdered. What are your thoughts on this one, David?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like Obama said, the aliens exercise strict control over them. I totally believe that there are things that Trump knows that if he said, his life would be in danger. What does that tell you? And Ross is like, does that make you, are you proud of that? Like, listen, we didn't make the system, bro. Like we inherited whatever the fuck this is, right? This is from JFK. This is every conspiracy. This is Watergate. This is everything. We're dealing with this as much as you are, dude. We don't know. We don't want the secrecy. I don't want it. I don't want America to be making weapons instead of telling us how to like lift a car up off the ground and make it fly. You know, that would be way better. But we are in a system, you know, that we inherited, and it's strange that we seldom acknowledge how much power these hidden entities have. And I don't mean NHI. I mean like hidden human groups and special interest groups and the intelligence community. They have a lot of power over the president. So yeah, I think that Ross isn't misspeaking here, and I think he's talking about what he's heard too. So I don't think he's lying.
Let me play this one again. Remember from our Trump episode? Let me see if this works. Bouncing around real quick.
In my last conversation with President Trump in the White House, he called me a lot. And this is after January 6th, so it's 2 weeks before, or a week before he's leaving office. He wanted to run past me the names of people he was going to pardon and sentences he was going to commute. He wanted my opinion on them. Some of them I knew. I said, "How you doing?" He said, "Not too well," and he went off into a tangent about what he thought happened with the election. I said, "You know, you made a promise to the public many times and to me privately that you haven't kept." What? I'll take care of it right now. I said, "You promised you would release the records of the JFK assassination." He said to me, "Judge, if they showed you what they showed me, you wouldn't have released it either." And I said, "Who's they and what did they show you?" And then he said, "Judge, someday when we're on the phone," and then he raised his voice, "and there aren't 15 people listening to the phone call," back to a normal voice, "I'll tell you."
Oh my God.
I mean, this makes it sound even worse. Who are they? Probably somebody in the intelligence community. What did they show him? JFK's brains blown out?
Did you hear Trump's take on the JFK assassination, why he didn't release the files?
Yeah, I know what Trump's take is.
He said that if you knew what I know, you wouldn't tell people either, which is crazy.
Well,
what
and
does that mean?
That's his position on the UAP thing as well.
Yeah.
It's his position on the... I mean, so I don't know. These kind of statements make me think, there's something to maybe what Ross is saying there, right?
Yep. No reason to doubt it. Ross isn't saying anything crazy. Like, he's not saying anything too far-fetched. You know what I mean? All of it's totally believable, and that's the way our government works. But for Trump or for Tucker to go on and back that up and to say he has the same feeling about UAPs as JFK, that's wild. You know, my imagination goes wild.
I mean, I know, for example, Trump's...
Just listen to that one more time, that I jumped around.
Briefed. You know what's going on? He's scared. He's scared they're going to kill him if he reveals what he knows. That's what I've been told. You have a situation where your potential president is terrified of speaking about the UAP issue because he's scared they're going to knock him.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Maybe, maybe not. I mean, Tucker and Judge Napolitano kind of... I mean, what if it's all tied into the JFK thing, right? And I actually think Ross Coulthart has something coming out. And a lot of people do believe that. I think even Danny Sheehan believes that and whatnot, that, like, it's all connected.
You think the JFK assassination might have been connected to the secrecy of the UFO topic?
Potentially, maybe one of 4 factors is what I've heard sometimes.
You know what? There's a lot of potential crossover there. I mean, I even heard that like Marilyn Monroe might have been killed because she was shown stuff, and she was about to talk about it. Right? So crazy. All right, Ross. Shout out to Ross getting out there.
He says, what Ross said is not believable at all. LOL. I could see that, but then also like when you listen to that Napolitano clip and that Tucker clip, it's like you could see where that could happen. Who knows?
Grusch sat down.
So a little transition now. We're on a Grusch a year later. So we're just going to watch this.
Oh, yeah. Grusch celebrated his 1-year anniversary of basically coming out into the public eye.
Yeah, and we're going to do a full episode that just kind of recaps this full year. But we thought we'd just watch it real quick, give our little quick boilerplate take. And it just kind of Ross Coulthart, like what I said, whatever you want to say about Grusch, and who knows, maybe even Grusch has been lied to, right? He was on the UAPTF. He did end up testifying in front of Congress, and Ross Coulthart got his first interview, right? So that is credit for something. You know what I mean? Can't deny that.
On with investigative journalist Ross Coulthart, who is reporting for News Nation on the bombshell whistleblower complaint filed with Congress and the Intelligence Community Inspector General. According to the complaint, in July 2021, Mr. Grusch confidentially provided UAP, unidentified aerial phenomena related classified information, to the Department of Defense Inspector General. At that time, Mr. Grusch communicated classified information about the improper withholding and or concealment of classified material from the U.S. Congress by certain IC elements. News Nation has confirmed Grusch's credentials, but he says he can't show us the proof of the alien craft for national security reasons. In a somewhat frightening revelation, Grusch claims the non-human species may not be friendly.
I've been told that there have been attempts to bring down craft, that we've acted offensively against non-human craft.
There have been instances, and there are certain techniques.
Have human beings been hurt or killed by a non-human intelligence?
While I can't get into the specifics because that would reveal certain U.S. classified operations, I was briefed by a few individuals on the program that there were malevolent events like that.
Grusch says he has to be careful about providing detail. He shared this letter with us from the Department of Defense, giving him permission to do the interview with News Nation. It says the interview questions are approved for public release. However, this approval does not include any photograph, picture, exhibit, caption, or other supplemental material not specifically approved by this office. Our concurrence for release does not imply DoD endorsement or factual accuracy of the material. Grusch says the United States is not the only country that has encountered non-human intelligence. He says our geopolitical rivals have their own crash retrieval programs.
We're in a competition with their adversaries to understand this. And it's a multi-decade Cold War that has been under our nose for so long. And, you know, there is no good way to level the playing field and hold other nation states accountable if they're doing unethical or illicit activity as it relates to this subject. And I think the obtuse secrecy is actually putting us in a very dangerous position where a country might make a breakthrough. Let's say it's an adversary of ours. And it is so destabilizing.
The secrecy is the main reason Grusch says he is coming forward. He's concerned Congress is being kept in the dark, and it's a
So there it is, Sheepa, a year later. First off, what did you think a year ago when this happened?
That's a good question, but let me tell you what I think right now. We got a super chat, $5. Thank you, Alana.
Nowadays I'm all about the Fetty. You better get some. Too busy hating, ain't getting none. Me, I'm all about the Fetty. Ain't getting none. Me, I'm all about the Fetty. Yeah, they ain't ready for.
They ain't ready for me. Thank you, Alana. Much appreciated.
Yeah, thank you, Alana.
A year of David Grusch, man. Landscape changes when a reliable, trustworthy, believable whistleblower hits the stage in a very public way. And that's what we're dealing with. 365, maybe 367 days now of Grusch. What is Cambion doing? What is he saying? You know, it's been a year and no data, no info released.
He kind of has some points, right?
No, he does. No, he has Cambion has a lot of good points, right? The expectation was set, and because, you know, a lot of people socialize within the UFO community, and a lot of people want to be friendly and not seen as too harsh of a critic or whatever, and lots of us just want to be in the conversation, right? That we don't really criticize people like Grusch for the things that they promise or the things that they say. We're not really, you know, analyzing and dissecting it and holding them to the coals for it. We give them a free pass on a lot of stuff. But that also comes across with the personality of each person, right? Like Grusch is he seems like a very nice guy. So it's almost like you come at him hard, you want to play hardball with him, and it's kind of like off color. You know what I mean? You look like the asshole. So how far will Cambion push this expectation? We don't know. But he has some points.
Well, we've been waiting on his op-ed, right? And so, look, here's a little, like I said, we're going to do a full episode on Grusch. It'll probably, go through all these, super hard, fleshed out. But he did that News Nation thing. And then he spoke at Congress, the congressional hearing, which is honestly, I feel like a really huge W for the UFO community that moment, that day.
That's why Corbell was right there behind him, miming his words with his lips.
Like a gymnastics mom. or a dance or Teen Mom.
For real though, for real.
But then so then he was on the Yes Theory and Jesse Michaels interview or episode, which I was cited in. Let's go.
Let's go.
He went on Rogan. That was sick. Went on Rogan before Lou. My gut tells me Lou was pissed about that. He spoke at the Soul Foundation, and then he did that billionaire thing that everyone was kind of pissed off about. But I feel like he kind of... I was expecting maybe a little bit more of a rollout. He's kind of went MIA, and like we said, his op-ed has allegedly been held up, right? In Dopser or whatever. I want more of Grusch, to be honest. What are your thoughts?
I think you're right. I'm with you on this, dude. I wanted more of a rollout. It's been so staggered, right? So staggered, and a lot of these like independent media sources, like Jesse Michaels, right? News Nation, they've been carrying the first kind of initial, let's say, the initial appearance of Grusch all the way into the congressional hearings and you know whatever. They've been carrying it for him, but you know, when is he going to sit down to a roundtable, right, with like Coulthart and fuck it, get Corbell in there? You know, like when are they going to have a round table where they can talk to him freely? When are they going to start like saying this is the rollout? Here's what we're going to do. Like Grusch should be calling shots out here. He should be like mobilizing the UFO believers, but he's very much a background player now. Do you think that's personal preference? Like, is he just not in the public eye kind of guy, or do you think that the group he's part of, from Soul Foundation to just the overall disclosure process, do you think that they have different plans for him?
Honestly, and people are gonna call me conspiracy theorist, I feel like he cozied up with some people, and maybe he realized that they weren't who he thought they were, and is still trying to like navigate while still seeing that like there's something here with the UFO thing. But like, I don't know, right? Lou didn't speak at Soul. He's no longer like really on Soul, David Grusch, when at first he was. David Grusch isn't part of this new UAP disclosure fund thing, right? There's the whole thing of the controversy of the fact that he even spoke to Greer, right? He's willing to kind of cross these lines that some of them have made hard lines in. Same thing with the dark journalist, right? When he wanted to speak with him and then like kind of got kiboshed by Mellon, which we'll cover more in depth on our deep dive on Grusch. But there are these kind of weird little fractures, I feel like, and I think that might be to blame for some of it. I don't know though. This is all speculation, right? We're just having fun here, nerding out.
No, man, there's something's going on. You guys aren't shy. You know how we are. You know what we think. You know what beat we're keeping our eye on, right? There has been some very big fumbles in terms of the momentum and what's the word? How do I want to say it? Like the rollout of all of this stuff, from Tom DeLonge shitting the bed on Joe Rogan, to Lou Elizondo then getting the torch and then dropping the bag because he preferred to be protected by UFO Twitter's worst harassers and doxers. That's who he sided with, and I honestly think there's a problem there. They bring in David Grusch, who's like a nice guy, right? Holy crap, $50 dono from Courage First. Dear God, we should put the whole...
Bad days, I'm all about the Fetty. You better get some. Too busy hating, ain't getting none. Me, I'm all about the Fetty. Ain't getting none. Me, I'm all about the Fetty. Yeah, they ain't ready for...
Hell yes. Hell yeah, Courage First. I'm pumped about Friday now. It is a UFO extravaganza. It really, really is. But yeah, man, I think that that's how I see it. I see Tom DeLonge shit in the bed. I see Lou Elizondo shit in the bed, and then I see David Grusch coming in, and they're playing very safe with him, right? They don't want him to go out and be too exposed out there and say something silly or do something that can be criticized. And I think they're just holding on to him. And you know what's funny now is I hear this inner circle refer when they say Elizondo, they also say Grusch now. So
they're
it's
really
almost like
trying
they're
to tie him to him. Really
exactly.
Hardcore.
Exactly.
I feel like they're trying to tie Lou Elizondo to Grusch more than Grusch is trying to tie himself to Lou. That's, you know what I mean?
Yep. I absolutely agree. I wonder if I almost imagine David Grusch kind of like trying to bob and weave the Lou association. You know what I mean? Like,
he does seem like a good guy. He doesn't give me the vibes of like Gary Nolan or Lou that would just completely co-sign. And like we've covered, and people want to get mad at us, but like Sawan literally was like told to oust this guy, and Leslie Keene, the woman who broke the story, said that it was like he was getting threatening phone calls from UFO Twitter and like the UFO community.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the story.
Here's what we know. Sawan a man named Sawan online on Twitter definitely tweeted out David Grusch's initials, called him a cockroach, and said they had to flush him out. Very aggressive, very derogatory, and very threatening language, right? It turns out that this is before David Grusch went public, right? So a man named Sawan really tweeted this. We have the tweet, okay? Now, Sawan said in a public space that he was told to go after Grusch in an effort to get him to out himself, to hurry along the process, by a man named Mike Disclosure, who is a producer, right, in a partner with the show called Disclosure Tonight. The strange fucking thing about this chain of events and this little connection that I just laid out for you is that Disclosure Tonight is one of Lou Elizondo's, if not Lou Elizondo's, favorite podcast to go on. He has a very close relationship with Thomas Fessler. They call each other. And we know that's not a rumor. Lou Elizondo literally called Thomas Fessler live on air. Thomas Fessler hosts a show on YouTube live called Disclosure Tonight. So why was an employee of Disclosure Tonight, right? Why was an employee of Disclosure Tonight, Lou Elizondo's favorite show, encouraging a psychopath online to go after David Grusch? These are questions I have for the whole community. And when let it ride. Let this play. This is so crazy to me.
Counter to it too, though, that Fessler recently has said he's done with the attack dog life.
Good for him.
Fully acknowledging that he was an attack dog for Lou Elizondo.
Go after David Grusch.
I got a question for Swan. Why did you go against Grusch early on before he went public?
And this is important. This is before he went public. His story broke like June 5th or something like that. This is May 27th. This is like a full week or two before.
Damn.
Someone told you that he was a disinfo agent. Who told you he was a disinfo agent?
First of all, then that's why I stopped following Mike. Because Mike tried to put me on to try to oust Grusch because Grusch
Not me, Mike.
That's the voice of UAP. Which Mike?
Disclosure, yep. And then let me go ahead and play this one too, so that people. Here we go. 1 second. Boom.
Dean speaks on the UFO hate group targeting of David Grusch.
Threatening phone calls from whom, of what sort?
He didn't even know who they were from. He doesn't answer them. There were also hostile actors out in the UFO community who were calling him, and there's a nasty Twitterverse.
To read that. David Grusch is the whistleblower that was supposed to come out in the Washington Post. He cock-teased the community. We are working to flush out that cockroach, David Grusch. UFO Twitter, stay tuned.
Damn.
Out there. I don't know if you don't know about it, Ezra, you're lucky. The actors out in the UFO community who were calling him, and there's a nasty Twitterverse out there. I don't know if you don't know about it, Ezra, you're lucky, because there's just it's a very contentious arena out there of people who are involved with this topic, and they will sometimes try to cause harm to people, like Grusch. And so I think it was a legitimate concern. When things start to leak, you don't even know how this information is getting out. I
got a question for Swan. Why did you go against Grusch early on before he went public? Someone told you that he was a disinfo agent. Who told you he was a disinfo agent?
First of all, then that's why I stopped following Mike. Because Mike tried to put me on to try to oust Grusch because Grusch
Not
didn't
me,
come out.
Mike. Yeah, that's just something that happens in this community, and like we covered with the UAP Disclosure Fund, like figures within this community are calling on literally mentally unstable people to do their like weird, dirty work. It's very cringe and very weird.
They do it often. Like we play this song, Thank You, Pizza Slayer, F the UAP cult, for sure.
Nowadays I'm all about the fatty. You better get some. Too busy hating, they ain't getting none. Me, I'm all about the fatty. They getting none. Me, I'm all about the fatty. Yeah, they ain't ready for.
My guy's gonna be so hyped when I finally tell him that his song gets played every day.
Oh, hell yeah. And riff on this for a second, because I have to go to the restroom.
Hell yeah. David Grusch's year. All right, guys, there's a big problem. And I think as a community, we might want to start asking these questions to some of these people. Like I said, this connection is deep. This is real. So Juan is very closely associated, or at least was very closely associated with Disclosure Tonight. He claimed and he alleged, right, and it didn't seem like he was lying, he alleged that he was told to go after Grusch to flush him out. Literally, they were trying to intimidate and threaten, right, a whistleblower, a government, a veteran, all this stuff. They were trying to intimidate and threaten him to pressure him to come out. For what?
No, and Tupa, they didn't try. They did. Because Leslie
you know what?
The
You're
reason
right.
the story broke was because he was getting harassed by UFO Twitter people. So it wasn't just an attempt to flush him out. They had a mission, a goal, and they actually executed it because they did get his story to come out before.
You're totally
and in a way
right.
that it wasn't expected to. Yeah.
You're totally right. It all went to plan, and this is how I see it, and this is why I think this is an important point. I am very suspicious as to why Lou Elizondo's main squeeze of a UFO YouTube channel, right, their whole crew, why was a person in that group, right? Because Sawan used to be associated with Disclosure Tonight as well. He was a frequent guest and collaborator to the show.
You want
so
to
it's
really
not
mindfuck that only you might get, but we'll have to deep dive later. Sawan's
Yeah.
first ever tweets were attacking Disclosure Tonight over the Gary the Brave leaks, saying Gary's a piece of shit, blah, 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 but also promoting the Good Trouble show. His first ever tweets from 2022. It's very weird, bro.
Sawan, who and I want,
Several
again,
episodes
this
of
is why
Sawan,
this is so crazy, is because the same group that utilized the attack dog, right, Sawan, to try to flush out an American hero, veteran, whistleblower with threats and intimidation. They did flush him out. They really did. They're the ones who created the I Stand with Grusch ribbon that all of this same group, this UAP cult, wore. So I see it as this. This is how I see it. This is my take. If I were going to write a story about this, a fictional story, here's what I would write. And I'm trying to make sure I'm not saying that this is 100% fact. Again, this is how I see this situation. For me, it looks like Elizondo wanted to get Grusch to come out for some type of marketing thing. That, like, he needed it to happen, and he needed it to happen fast. He applied pressure with his attack dogs, the Disclosure Tonight crew. He had them apply pressure. They had to go and utilize one of these kind of wild cards that they have on their roster. So it's a little more separated, right? It goes from Elizondo to Disclosure Mike to Sawan, and then Sawan's totally fine going out there and making himself crazy and making himself look like an asshole. Again, Sawan's first tweets are dragging Disclosure Tonight because one of their producers, Gary, and this is a fact, one of their producers, Gary, came out with the post explaining how Lou Elizondo and Disclosure Tonight have been harassing and attacking their critics, and that Gary was part of it too. So one of the producers of the show, Disclosure Tonight, came out and already said this about the crew. And then after this, Sawan comes out and attacks the show for that, attacks Gary for that, while at the same time promoting a brand new show called The Good Trouble Show, hosted by the one and only Matt Ford. And now we know Matt
on this because this is getting really in the weeds here. But yeah, I'm already imagining our Grusch episode is going to be sick too because,
dude,
I think they fed that journalist the info about him. Because who do we know in the community that digs up information on people and like criminal history? But we'll get there. That's yeah.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so if you guys are interested in this crazy Shakespearean drama about people outing each other, threatening each other, and then pretending to side with each other, all for some type of PR move, watch us closely. We're going to be talking about this. No one else is talking about this. No one else in ufology is supposed to be talking about the betrayal of David Grusch and the manipulation of a good-natured whistleblower who just simply wants to tell the truth. This is the saga of Sawan, Disclosure Tonight, and Lou Elizondo, and it's questions we're going to get to the bottom of. But that's David Grusch's year in review. I hope he knows what happened to him. I hope he knows who was out there sharing his information, threatening him, flushing him out, calling him whatever, roach, all this other bullshit. I hope he knows how closely associated the same group is with people who continue to try to link him together with Lou Elizondo. I just hope he knows that, and if not, maybe he'll catch some of this reporting. And again, we don't know that we don't know the facts, right? Sawan could be a liar. He could be lying, but he said what he said, and more people have corroborated this through their own individual statements. But yeah, we'll get we'll get to that in a later date. For now, let's see what else this week has
We'll have
to
it flushed
offer.
down. We'll have Swan's timeline. Hopefully, we get Swan on the show because he's kind of been on the outs too. They use people and then just throw them away. So that I would actually love to have Swan on the show. Okay, let's continue though.
I want to be very brief on James.
Ooh.
Okay, so Gametech broke this story today.
And who's Gametech?
So Gametech's this Twitter user, and it's semi-trust me, bro, but he has a good track record. He's actually a political, Twitter account, and he actually does break a lot of stories on the political sphere. He broke the Mar-a-Lago raid 3 weeks before, and he said some interesting things today. I'm just going to play this audio. We covered this before. He broke this about James Fox, too, and I did see the DM confirmation from James Fox that James Fox was being threatened, and this was a week before Lou Elizondo came out with his thing, so we all have feelings about that thing, right? But I think it shows to his credibility, or at least being tapped into something. Whether or not James Fox was actually being threatened, is another thing. But for whatever reason, he knew about it a week before Lou Elizondo came out with the same thing.
Very interesting.
Because I haven't talked to him, and I haven't told him that I was going to talk to publicly about this. But I talked to James just a couple weeks ago, and I'll tell you from my standpoint why I was talking to him. I was talking to him because I'm coordinating an interview with him prior to his release on his new film. That's why I was talking to him. And I was strategizing with him about that. Now, when his responses were very telling, and Fringe and Logan, I sent those to him only to give you guys an understanding that what I'm saying is verified, it's confirmed. But there are death threats on these UFO whistleblowers, and I'm not talking about the David Grusch circle. I'm talking about in other circles too, and they're very serious. This is not.
I just noticed too, he was calling it the circle before James Fox did come out with the circle. That's kind of interesting. But yeah, we don't have to.
No, that's a good data point.
Right, yeah, pretty interesting there. But I just want to kind of show that he's kind of got some stuff. So today he said this.
Hey, wait, go back to that. I just want to acknowledge before Heather Birdie blows us up. I misspelled Gametech. Okay, I misspelled it. So I just
Gametech.
Gametech, dude. Gametech.
Wow, dude. UFO show us right. We are a clan.
Ignore. We should talk about what UFO Joe said about us too. That happened this week. All right.
At the end. Yeah. You want to read this?
I've struggled to say this publicly because of the trolls, the eye rolls, etc. But screw it. By now, you all should know that doesn't bother me. So here's the truth. Do you want to know what Tucker Carlson is afraid of? Ask him if I'm correct, and he will either be silent or spill the beans, and then you will believe him. Do you want to know what the government doesn't want to tell you and why they've kept hidden the secrets of UFOs and ETs? They walk among us. They look like us. They control our minds and thoughts when they're near you. They are judges, law enforcement, politicians, and world leaders, etc. They are demons. That is the reason and the truth. This information was revealed to me prior to breaking the UFO whistleblower story I broke on May 19th of 2023. I've struggled to tell you this because of ridicule. I'm too exhausted to worry about that now. Gametech tweets. Gametech politics, sorry. Wild. Not surprised. I mean, it's not like I have, 4 or 5 weeks of spaces that are titled Aliens or Demons, and they dive into this topic exactly and about how the government doesn't want to talk about it because of this. So I think there is some meat on the bones for this particular tweet, and it's actually good to know that he is somewhat in a upper inner circle and has connections like this to have these beliefs and stuff. And yeah. I mean, he brings up Tucker, dude. We just went over this.
We're going to cover that actually again now too. We're just going to kind of cover some clips that maybe corroborate some of the stuff he's saying again. We're not saying it's for fact, but
cool.
I do believe that somebody told him this at the very least. We hear things about the Collins elite and stuff like that. People think it's demons. That's a very common argument. So let's just listen. What I got here.
What was it that led you to believe
talking to a lot?
Yeah, so this was first. This was this week actually, so it's like double news.
Yeah, dude.
First, we're gonna analyze where Tucker gets his information from before we go into the crazy stuff he says, right?
People. I got really interested in it, and since that is my job, that's literally my job, is to call people and see them and have dinner with them and talk to them. And that's what I've done my whole life. So it's like that's just natural for me. It's not a hobby. It's my profession. I hate to use the word reporting because it's been so discredited by the liars. Oh, we've done a lot of reporting. Here at NBC News, we've done a lot of reporting. Fucking liar. You know, you talk to some flack at CIA who told you a bunch of lies, which you're now repeating to me and my kids. So shut up. You've done reporting. I hate to use the word reporting, but just like satisfying your curiosity by trying to identify who might know, talking to a bunch of people about it, assessing who's telling the truth. Maybe they're wrong anyway, but you can kind of feel whether someone's telling the truth. And there are ways to know, or to get closer to knowing whether someone's telling the truth, and just talk to a lot of people. And I've done that because I got really interested in it, sort of by accident. I never thought I'd be interested in this at all. And so I talked to a lot of people, and I was really shocked by what credible people told me. They could all be wrong. Of course, I can't prove it.
Yeah. But
I became completely satisfied, I'll say that they were not lying and that they were right or in the vicinity of right. I always assume the details are wrong. I was a police reporter for a while, and you interview someone like a shooting. You've obviously seen shootings, but most people don't see shootings. So you think if you saw a shooting, you'd like remember every detail of the shooting. They get them all wrong. People aren't good at detail. Okay, that's just true. But they are good at themes. They're good at themes. Like, they remember the guy's fat. He may have been 400 pounds. He may have been 280. He was fat. Like, if everyone says the guy was fat, he was fat.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's what we do. We can't say that. And so if everybody you talk to is saying, oh, this is really upsetting, I don't know what this means, but here's what I know. Here's what I heard someone say. I was in a meeting, or here's what, what I mean.
All right, dude, this might be a good spot to play that video you're working on. Is that what you want to show, or no? Like
Yeah, well, this is I've been collecting a lot of the things. I believe I know who Tucker's talking to and a lot of the ideas he's talking about. So I just kind of collected a ton of clips that kind of show who he's talking to, the ideas that he's kind of sharing, and I don't think anyone's going to be surprised about these clips that play here. But
welcome to Tucker Carlson. Today, the crazy thing about the topic of UFOs is how, when you get into it, how really non-crazy a lot of the people who know a lot about the topic turn out to be. They're kind of the opposite of what you imagine. They're not fervid conspiracy nuts. A lot of them are just scientists. Gary Nolan is definitely at the top of that list. He's a Stanford professor, Stanford PhD. He's an immunologist. And he has, over the last decade or two, spent a lot of time studying the harmful effects that apparent encounters with UFOs have on the human brain. This is a field of study, and he is at the very top of it. Dr. Gary Nolan joins us in studio. Professor, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you so much.
I was just reading your again, to restate the same point once more, it's just remarkable once you get into this topic. I don't know if mainstream is the word, but it's not fringe at all.
I mean, look, if you're an intelligence, are you going to go down on a planet with a bunch of angry monkeys?
Okay, so this I think is important, okay, because Gary Nolan is very clever with his wording, and very not clever with who he talks to on Twitter. But the idea here is that I believe that there's an undertone of spirituality to what he's saying. He is laying the scientific and physical groundwork for non-spiritual believers or non-believers to kind of find their way into the UFO topic, and then from there find their way into something called spiritual science. And so he's describing, a higher intelligence. Now, you really need to pay attention to this word, higher intelligence, because this is where I think Gametech, me, and Tucker all kind of align here, which is that like the higher intelligence is the soul or the spiritual realm, the angelical realm, whatever is not physical but still intelligent. And so he's going to make it sound like there are aliens that are way smarter than us. They're just really far away. But what he's talking about is intelligent beings in a different dimension or a different plane of existence who are not physical but can become physical. And he explains kind of how that happens. And again, this is one of these earlier public conversations Tucker has had. So I think it's not an assumption to believe Tucker walked away from this conversation with a new friend and Gary and a new source in the UAP stuff.
Who might kill you? No, unlikely. You'll send some intermediary. Well, what kind of intermediary are you going to send? You're going to send something that maybe almost looks like them, but isn't them. So I think, and this is, again, from inside the intelligence community, most of what we think we're seeing are avatars, biological robots that are basically put there to be the minions, if you will.
And that's the current view of the intel community.
It is a hypothesis. Let's say that there were a race of intelligent ants at the bottom of your garden. How do you tell them about Instagram? Right? How do you talk with them? How do you interact with them? You would probably make something that looked almost like an ant, and you'd put it down there. But then how are you going to interact with them? Well, with pheromones, that's how they talk. But you do something else. Right, you're speaking about whatever it is you talk about at the dinner table, but to translate down to their terms, you would have to use some sort of an intermediary. So it's kind of a lost in translation problem, right? You want to put something there that can interact with them so that they can know that there's an object, but you, for instance, you're not going to show up and put yourself in danger. I wouldn't. I mean, we send drones. You understand
of course, I'm tracking intently.
How would you, as a higher intelligence, represent yourself to a lesser intelligence?
So yeah, pretty interesting stuff there, Tuba. Do you pause it?
Yeah, my bad. So this is from the Lex Fridman show, or Lex Fridman podcast, and this was recorded about a year prior to the Tucker Carlson interview. And here he goes into depth as well about like the way a quote unquote higher intelligence would try to communicate with a person.
Well, let's go back to pre-civilization. Maybe you show yourself as the spirits in the forest, and you give messages through that. Once you get a little bit more civilized, then you show yourself as the gods. And then you're God. Well, we don't believe in God anymore necessarily. Not everybody does. So what do we believe in? We believe in technology. So you show yourself as a form of technology, right? But the common thread is you're not alone.
The common thread is you're not alone. Can you think of any reason why an alien would want to comfort a human being over the course of centuries, eons, millennia, to remind them that they're not alone, if it's just an alien and not an angel? Very interesting.
And there's something else here with you. And there's something that's, as you said, watching you, and at least watching over your shoulder.
What? An alien watching over our shoulder? Hope you guys are listening.
But I think that, like any good parent, you don't tell your student everything. You make
a parent, a student, okay,
them learn. And learning requires mistakes, because if you tell them everything, then they get lazy.
What do you, Gary, Dr. Nolan, you have to speculate. What do you think it is? Let's be bold.
I think it is an advanced form of intelligence, something that we don't understand, that is using some kind of intermediaries. It's not that they walk amongst us, that, wearing a skin suit are actually the alien. Right? No, you're going to basically put something there that is, I think of it as an intelligence test. Can you see what's in front of you for what it really is? Yeah. Can you see the anomalous data point that is there that you realize what it is? I mean, when the South American native tribes first saw the Spanish ships coming across the horizon, they didn't realize what it was. They couldn't see it for what it was. So, this is, as I said before, this is the kind of the wow factor, that they're showing up, they're saying, well, who amongst you are intelligent enough to realize what it is that you're looking at?
Yeah.
They don't have to land on the White House lawn. We can always make the joke about, is there intelligence in DC at all, right?
Uh-huh.
You just need to show yourself to enough to acculturate Now, if you've been around for a long time, and this is something that I do think has been on, they've been around for a long time, they are affecting our culture, right? It's actually often thought that many of the religions that we think of as the most important have been part of this process.
Gary Nolan took the gloves off at the SALT conference. He's not beholden to the same things some of these other guys are. He straight up said it, okay? If you've been around for as long as these guys are, I think they've been around for thousands of years, they are affecting our culture. Look into, and I'm going to explain this too in a video we're putting out with Skyfire. I'll explain to you how culture started, what culture does, right? And why this is important. The fact that he believes that these big brothers, parents, guides are watching us and guiding us to what? To better choices? Okay. And then they're trying to nurture us, but they don't want us to get lazy, so they have to set challenges for us. They can't give us everything. They're like a parent, like a teacher. Now he brings up that they started a lot of the major religions, the important ones, were started by this process. Hope you guys are paying attention.
So they're from here, and they've been here for thousands of years, whatever they are. And it's pretty clear to me that they're spiritual entities, whatever that means. They're supernatural, and which is to say, supernatural means above the natural, above the observable nature. And they don't behave according to the laws of science as measured by people, and they've been here for a long time. And there's a ton of evidence they're under the ocean and under the ground. So, like, with that fact set, what do you conclude?
The angels and demons of the Bible are real. They are the extraterrestrial time travelers.
Jack Sarfati here is a well-known person, physicist, yada, yada. He's a character, been one since the 50s, right? When he got a call from a futuristic alien AI system telling him he's been chosen and that in the future he will take part in some serious work. That ended up happening, right? So if you want to watch Jack Sarfati's story, we have a breakdown of his actual event, his experience, and what he went on to do. Very short, 5 minutes long on Skyfire. Go to the channel, check it out. And also go to Danny Jones and watch the 2-part interview with Jack Sarfati. Please do.
Okay, that's why. So it's all the stories in the Bible are real. They're based on, they're not, it's like, they're distorted. But all the stuff, angels and demons, Paradise Lost, John Milton and Lucifer and Satan is real. They're all real. These are the Greek gods are real. The Egyptian gods, all that stuff, Stargate, they're all coming back. It's all true.
Damn. Okay, so let's go back a little bit further. Okay, we have a man named Jacques Vallée, and to a lot of people, he's one of the goats of ufology. We can get into his history in a minute, but for now, he's in a show called New Thinking Aloud with Jeffrey Mishlove. You can tell Jeffrey has hair here, so this is a long time ago. But listen to how consistent this statement is with what we just heard.
That UFOs are deliberately trying to manipulate our subconscious mind to create a mythology in our culture about themselves, which is one of the reasons that they're both physical and concrete, yet very elusive at the same time. Do you still feel that way?
Could the UFO phenomenon be manipulating us? Could it be a teaching system of some sort?
A teaching system?
So, perhaps something that we are creating ourselves, perhaps a series of images that we are projecting.
Now, he says that because one of Jacques Vallée's belief systems, I think he's a Catholic, but he's also a Rosicrucian, right? And so the idea is our soul, right, our higher self is still ourself. And that the idea of a higher self or a higher place, right, a higher level of consciousness exists within all of us, and it's trying to inform us. And he believes, right, Jacques, at least he posited there, right, in some of his earlier work, Messengers from, I forget what it's called, his earlier books, he hypothesizes this, right, that could these things be from a higher sense of self trying to manifest and show us, guide us, teach us. Isn't that strange? And Jacques Vallée is a very close compadre with Gary Nolan. Again, you can trace these back to something called spiritual science, okay, that was very popular in the late 1800s, very popular. And as mentioned earlier, someone said like Rudolf Steiner. Yeah, like Rudolf Steiner. In fact, I link, and I won't do it tonight, I link all of these statements to Steiner's work. as an early Rosicrucian theosophist, speaker, writer, all that stuff. He laid a lot of this stuff out, and I think that's very important because if you want to really decode, right, which is something that I've been doing for over 2 years, I've been trying to decode Gary Nolan's statements. And so, I'm 2 years deep in this, and this is where it led me. Was all these little moments, like through looking at who he's associated with, what they're talking about, and how they're talking about it.
Dreams and mythological representations share an essentially narrative structure.
So this is Jordan Peterson, and so what Jacques Vallée just stated with Mishlove is that he thinks in his book that UFOs might be trying to create a mythology about themselves, right? Why would they need to create a mythology about themselves? Why are they coming from a dreamlike state where images are occurring, right? And so one of the things that Gary Nolan's research is also in schizophrenia and the basal ganglia, and this monitors dream sleep, right? A lot of dreams and dream disorders are related to the same parts of the brain that Gary Nolan has opened up and studied, right? And I came across this hypothesis well before Gary Nolan ever stated this publicly. I know this. The idea that schizophrenia, again, a condition very closely related to anomalies within the basal ganglia, the brain structure that he studies along with Kit Green in UFO experiencers particularly, right? So there's a connection between dream sleep, mythological thinking, spiritual science, and UFOs. And what Jordan Peterson does is he lays out the structures of dreaming, right? And what the dream is trying to do. And the reason why this is important is because spiritual scientists, okay, they believe that the images given to us in dreams, the experiences that we have in dreams, are given to us by angels. Angels, okay? I don't know if they're winged angels or what, but even Carl Jung, right, a psychologist from the early 19th or the early 20th century, even Carl Jung wrote about this. The idea that our thoughts sometimes, the images we're given sometimes, the motivations we have sometimes, and the inspirations we have are at times not our own. There is a foreign influence, right? And just like Gary Nolan laid out, right? If they're trying to teach us, they're trying to guide us, they're here, they're watching you. For what? And the answer, right, is to grow. And that's what this is what they believe. I'm not over here telling you got to go subscribe to Rudolf Steiner, but this is what they believe. So the dream is pretty much the closest I found analogy and frame of reference that we can use for this unseen world. And this is a little fringe, but again, listen again to the language that Peterson's going to use when he describes this Jungian idea of dreaming and motivation and inspiration. And we can connect it, and I will connect it in a later video, to all the things that Gary Nolan is saying.
Sure. It's not so unreasonable to notice that a dream at night is like the movie that you play in your head. And it's not unreasonable to note as well that the dreams that you have at night bear a relationship to the daydreams that you have during the day. It's a form of cognition. It seems like an involuntary form of cognition, though, and that's a very strange thing. So Jung thought about the dream as nature speaking of its own accord. And so his idea was, well, when you sleep, you dream, but the dream happens to you. It's not something that you create the way that, and you don't even think about creating it. Because I might say, well, what are you thinking about? And you'll say, I'm thinking about whatever it is. And you'll take credit in some sense for thinking that because it seems like a voluntary activity. But what happens at night is that you think, but you think involuntarily. And so what Jung would say is that means that something is thinking in you. There are things that think in you. What are those things? And what are they thinking? And why are they thinking it?
I'll leave it there. All right. So
we're going some places here, dude.
Well, dude, I mean, this is if you ask people like Science Bob, if you ask Chris Bledsoe, if you ask Timothy Taylor, I'm convinced about this, and you ask Gary Nolan these questions, you will get confirmations, right? So, and I know this. So what he's explaining here, because Peterson is an amazing scholar of Jungian psychology and Jungian archetypes and whatnot, right? He gets it, and he can explain it very well. So what he's explaining here is that Jung and other people believe that there are things within us that are independent of us. They do their own thinking, and that they try to influence our thinking through the dream world, through images. And this, again, Carl Jung went on his own adventure and found out this information on his own adventures, right? And he went into the deep realms of the consciousness, into the cave. He went back to the cave, bro. Like the stuff that he came out with, he almost lost his mind grabbing this information. And then he comes out with the bag and he's telling everybody what's going on. And it takes people decades to figure out what it is. But it aligns exactly with this thing called spiritual science. And you will find the Rosicrucian connection throughout all of ufology, all the way back to J. Allen Hynek and Jacques Vallée. And so when Gary Nolan describes this influence, right, this teaching mechanism, and Vallée describes a teaching mechanism, right, to push us forward, right, this is the idea. And this is where Gametech is right. And I don't think he's wrong about anything he said, but this is where I know he's right, is that the people in power, they fully believe that these aliens are, in fact, spiritual beings who have manifested or transformed into a physical form. And this is talked about in the Bible. This is talked about in all of these ancient books. And what did Gary say at the SALT conference? He said, I think these things are affecting our culture. They're affecting our culture. That's an interesting thing, because listen to this.
We've now seen...
Nope, never mind, wrong clip. Okay, well, it's an interesting thing. The idea of affecting culture and pushing society forward, because that's exactly what Rudolf Steiner says, right? And so we have to explore this. If we're going to really dive into what Gametech is talking about, if we're going to dive into what Tucker Carlson's talking about, we have to find a common ground and a way in which to articulate these concepts without getting lost in all these like figurative what-ifs. And so what I've done, I think, is if you use the Jungian principles here, if you use it as a baseline, you can safely navigate these concepts with actual insight, right? With actual ways to visualize it, without getting lost in like the very complex yada yada yada. So definitely something to explore, because yeah, it's a little wild, but really what we're doing here is we're trying to ground the topic of angels, because it seems like the upper tier of ufology is very interested in it. And without having a background in Catholicism, I'm not a Catholic. I'm not a religious person, right? So when I hear these things given, these ideas and these concepts about these people and the hierarchy of beings and stuff, I'm a little lost. And so I had to find the groundwork, and you find it in the work of Edgar Cayce, you find it in the work of Rudolf Steiner. And these names, Edgar Cayce, Rudolf Steiner, Helena Blavatsky, Carl Jung, these names are holy in the upper tier of ufology. And the reason is because of the way in which they've explored and articulated the so-called angelic influence. Now, I'm not saying aliens aren't real. I'm just saying these guys believe, right, that the beings showing up here are spiritual beings turned physical, and they're focused on us because they've always been focused on us. Their goal, right, is to guide us. That's why they've been creating religions over millennia. That's why they've been creating societies and cultures and movements and ideas and even artistic influences, right? Even down to our art, right? And art is how you affect culture. So it's an interesting thing, right? I think that people like Nolan and Tucker now, they're in full preparation for a type of spiritual being event where they descend upon us. And they are descending upon us. And the reason why this is important is because how do you fight back on this? We got to look for this statement. Let's explore Gametech's statement, right? Which is that the government is terrified. They're not going to tell us what this is, right? Because they can't kill it. They can't shoot it. They can't do anything. And if they try, right, when they go to sleep, they're going to be dreaming. And what Peterson just said, right, is that you think involuntarily in your dreams. So you don't even have control. So you're forced to experience these life-changing, sometimes life-altering moments and scenarios where you wake up, just like the movie Inception, and you have a totally different view on the world based on what occurred in your dream. So if your dreams are being populated, created, and constructed by a foreign influence who seeks for a kind of like to influence us as individuals and to influence us as a culture, over the course of thousands and thousands and thousands of years, there's no way you're going to shoot that down. And that's a big issue, right? And if this thing, Okay, I'll end it there. I'll end it there.
You're
Yeah,
going
that's why
this
that's
needs to be its own episode. I feel like.
Dude, that's why it's an important thing. Like,
Steiner, Blavatsky, Dreaming.
all of these things, go check it out. All right, go check it out. Look up
Jordan
Blavatsky.
Peterson.
Yeah, look it up. Look it up. If you want to know
I don't
more.
remember though.
Oh shit.
So nowadays I'm all about the fatty. You better get some. Too busy hating, ain't getting none. Me, I'm all about the fatty. Ain't getting none. Me, I'm all about the fatty. Yeah, they ain't ready for.
Oh yeah. So that's my guy, Jordan Peterson. You're not going to get this information anywhere else. I've looked. So thanks for being here for this one. What's this clip?
I'm going to continue along real quick. Someone in the chat said Lou Elizondo is also a source, and yeah, we're going to show this real quick. We all remember this, right? This is definitely Lou talking to him.
Someone in the U.S. government who's well, let me just start by saying I don't know anything, but he sent me this. The above is 100% legit. I was read into this program, but told never to tell anyone. It's now been released, as you can see. It began as a result of my old program, AATIP. I signed a document saying I would never talk about Kona Blue and similar efforts. I can't believe the AARO would have released it. Look,
So definitely Lou, and also Lou's been on Tucker since like 2018. We should definitely do like a whole Tucker episode, I feel like, at some point. But that just kind of shows who's talking to him. Now we're going to listen to some of the stuff he's been saying. That kind of aligns with what Gametech's been saying, and maybe some of the stuff Tupa's been saying. Boom, boom.
A fair amount of evidence that they're not aliens. They've always been here. And I do think it's spiritual. That's my view. So, and again, it's not provable, but based on the evidence, I think
I'm with you. Absolutely.
If the U.S. government has in fact had direct contact with these beings, whatever they are, I've already told you what I think they are, and has entered into some sort of agreement with them, which is the claim of informed people, I would say. Whether they're right or wrong, I can't say conclusively. But if that is true, I mean, it's a very, very, very heavy thing.
Yeah, a lot of people say interdimensional beings.
Right. I want to ask: Are angels and demons, or how would you describe these beings?
You know, these are, again, I'm getting into the realm of conjecture, so I just want to say that flat out.
Entity.
But one thing I know for a dead certain fact, having seen it, is that there is good and evil, that we are being acted upon at all times. And I think every person can feel that in himself. I mean, there are moments when you are moved to do things that are much better than you actually are, and that are also more evil and destructive than you actually are. You are subject to forces from outside yourself. That is absolutely true. Now, we can argue about what they are, but every person in the room, if he's reflective, will tell you, yes, I know what you're talking about. And so there are forces that are not human, that do exist in a spiritual realm of some kind, that we cannot see, and that when you think about it, sort of make you think we live in an ant farm.
Yeah.
Right?
So yeah, he's definitely talking to Gary Nolan and to Lou Elizondo, and this is his conclusions he's reaching. So very interesting.
I love it. I love that he's talking about
The
Tim
second thing
Pool.
that bothers
right
to me is the UFO story. And the more you dig into that and talk to people with actual knowledge of it, again, that's another story where there are some, fanciful ideas floating around that are just, there's no evidence that they're true. But if you talk to people who, have actual knowledge of it that they gathered themselves, there are parts of that story that I do not understand at all that are really, really, really dark. It's so dark that I, haven't told my wife about it. I mean, I haven't verified any of this, but this is not just stuff that I read on the internet. I know you all are very, very grounded in that story, so I think I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But there's some stuff there that's just like, man, I'm not even sure what that means. There's a spiritual component there that I don't fully understand. So yes, that story bothers me. And I think, last thing I'll say, that one of the reasons that we've had all these disclosures and all of these, 10 whistleblowers at this point, and it hasn't really become front page news. Part of it's suppression. Parts of the government don't want you to know about it, but part of it is the public can't deal with it. It's too far out. The implications are too profound. And so, and I understand that, because I've heard things where I'm just like, oh man, I don't even really want to know that. honestly.
Deeply disturbing stuff. Forget like saucers
You know what I mean?
and technology. It's deeply disturbing stuff that I haven't even told Natalie. I agree with you. It's so disturbing. I can't even tell my kids. My kids ask me different stories about it, and I won't say it because it's so dark. It's so dark.
I totally agree.
Miles is watching. So.
Okay, Miles, if you're watching the show, Daddy's
Yeah.
not going to tell you about that part of the UFO stuff and what's going on with the government.
Well,
and that
can I say one thing? They've known clearly. I mean, this is, I think, established, and I feel comfortable saying this as fact. The U.S. government, I mean, these are real, whatever they are. They're not human. And the government has known that for a long time, possibly going back to the 1930s at least. And of course, there's tons of evidence in the written record, in the physical record, in paintings.
30s thing is a Grusch reference, I think.
And in literature, that people have been seeing and interacting with these things for a long time. So we know that. But the justification one often hears is, well, the government, various presidents who have been read in, not all have been, haven't wanted to disclose this because it would scare people. And I've always thought that's bullshit. You're hiding a crime, which they are, by the way, in my opinion. But I do think there's a sense in which that's not totally crazy. Like, there is some stuff, if it's true, and I'm kind of thinking it may be true, that's so radical that, well, as we both said, we don't want to tell the people we love most about it because, like, why would you, disturb someone like that? So I kind of get that. I hate to admit it. I'm not arguing for.
So that was pretty wild, and Gametech actually referenced this interview in his tweet. Let's see what else we got here. Oh,
my dad had.
This is like my favorite clip, honestly. So we got. Oh, I didn't realize the picture I pulled is edited Lou with the tiny legs. Lou, if you're watching this, I did not mean to do that. That's
Lou,
the first picture that
yeah, we have higher brow humor than that for the most part, but that's. I remember seeing this in the slide and it was cut off at the waist. I couldn't see.
Yeah, this is why he has a hate group, because people be doing shit like this too, just like nonstop, bro.
Oh.
But Lou and Tom went and briefed Chris Bledsoe, tried to get him into the fold, and this is what Bledsoe said. Tom DeLonge and somebody else, Bill Tompkins, told his dad, which I feel like all these things are kind of overlapping in the lining, right?
Has met Bill Tompkins, the guy who supposedly built the ships for the space program. Do you know who I'm talking about?
I was referring to some of his. I was thinking actually, sorry, of some of his illustrations in my head as I was describing it. William Tompkins, correct? Right.
Yep, and he sat there at a little Starbucks. I don't know what you call it, patio seating outside.
Yeah.
My dad, Tom DeLonge, the Blink-182 guy, and Bill Tompkins, and they sat there and they tried to shop my dad. Shop him as in win him over. And he sat there and he told my dad that Bill Clinton is a 9-foot-tall reptilian. He eats little girls. They slit their throat. They drink the blood and suck the life force out of their body. They zap us with these machines when we die so that they create this little hologram of a light. And when our consciousness goes to it, they reincarnate us back over. And the big secret that the government's been hiding, everybody, is that we're a cattle farm for lizards that live in caves, and the queen and the presidents are lizards. By the way, that's the same shit that everybody's reading online. So if they're saying it, and they're meeting my dad, who he is, been studied by the CIA and NASA and all this shit, and then he's meeting this guy and he's going to start spouting all this mumbo jumbo. It's obviously not true. It's an agenda. It's these.
This is what they're telling people behind the scenes, I think. And remember, Tom said this to him after like the TTSA stuff, after being in the mix with Mellon and Lou and Gary Nolan, right? Else we got here? Chuba, you're muted. I don't know if you're trying to say something.
Censored. I was real quick. You and I have been following this Kyle Odom story for a while, right? And I did not think I would hear similar things coming from. I just didn't, right? Like from this, like Kyle Odom, he was all on this idea of the Martians control Earth and that they're these like reptilians who run the world's governments and whatnot, and that by itself is crazy, especially the way they show it, right? I mean, I'm just gonna play a quick little clip of this, not to divert. I'm not trying to connect dots or whatever, but this Kyle Odom guy said the same shit
Is yet another twist in the case of an ex-Camp Pendleton Marine accused of shooting a pastor in Idaho 6 times. Police arrested Kyle Odom at the White House.
10 News military reporter Hannah Mullins is covering this developing story and joining us with his bizarre 21-page Martian manifesto. Hannah.
And guys, in it, he said the aliens are hypersexual, so they controlled his mind and stimulated him to the point of exhaustion.
Why'd they make this newscaster read that?
God, we pray that your
Okay, so basically, I'm going to get over to what he believed, and it's, you know, it's kind of bonkers, but like it's
Written word.
He's such a good man.
According to his manifesto, Odom believes Martians rule the world. He says dozens of them are U.S. lawmakers who crave control. The manifesto goes into disturbing detail about how the aliens got into his head and played out their sexual fantasies. In fact, he claims the aliens made Odom their sex slave. He also believes they live deep underground and in the moon, but Martians like Remington hide out in church to keep from getting caught.
Wild. Wild. So I'll leave it there. Like, yeah, this guy came and talked to Bledsoe and told him the reptilians were running the world and they were slitting kids' throats and they were, you know, that's
because this is what Gametech politics said too, right? So it's all kind of tying into that. If they walk among us, they're amidst us, but they're also like doing these crazy things. Let's just run this clip back again. It's probably one of my favorite clips.
My dad has met Bill Tompkins, the guy who supposedly built the ships for the space program. You know who I'm talking about?
I was referring to some of his. I was thinking actually, sorry, of some of his illustrations in my head as I was describing it. William Tompkins, correct? Right.
Yep.
Shouts out Project Z or whatever. I'm sorry, I just had to like cut his whole face off.
Oh, Dave. No, that's Dave Rossi. Dave Rossi. Hell yeah, dude.
Rossi,
He's great.
Generation Z. There you go. Yeah.
And he sat there at a little Starbucks. I don't know what you call it, patio, sitting outside.
Yeah.
My dad, Tom DeLonge, the Blink-182 guy, and Bill Tompkins, and they sat there and they tried to shop my dad. Shop him as in win him over. And he sat there and he told my dad that Bill Clinton is a 9-foot-tall reptilian. He eats little girls. They slit their throat. They drink the blood and suck the life force out of their body. They zap us with these machines when we die so that they create this little hologram of a light. And when our consciousness goes to it, they reincarnate us back over. And the big secret that the government's been hiding, everybody, is that we're a cattle farm for lizards that live in caves, and the queen and the presidents are lizards. By the way, that's the same shit. My dad has met Bill Tompkins, the guy who supposedly.
So yeah, there you go.
Damn. Elizondo, you think he believes that too?
I 100% think Elizondo believes this.
What about DeLong? You think DeLong believes this?
I think for sure DeLong believes this, like 1,000,000%.
Dude, and then dude, like you got this idea of the gods coming back, the Greek gods, the Egyptian gods. A lot of the Egyptian gods have like
how about slide
animalistic
90?
features.
Listen to this. They walk among us. They look like us. They control our minds and thoughts when they're near you. They are judges, law enforcement, politicians, and world leaders. Like, doesn't that sound just like what they tried to tell Bledsoe?
And also what Kyle Odom tried to tell everybody. You know, Kyle Odom had this incident, and then he disappeared. They found him at the White House throwing over documents, manifestos, and flash drives. It's he was trying to tell us back then what we're being told now through the UFO, disclosure effort and these insiders. I hope everybody's ready. I really, really do. Now, whether or not this is the real thing, I'm not saying get ready for this being real, but I hope you guys are ready for this being the narrative that they're pushing. That they're gonna. I hope they don't do a bait and switch where they go, oh, aliens, 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 and then like a year later they're like, you know what? It's actually angels, and then like we're the only ones that can talk to them. So send us your DMs and we'll send them to the angels and we'll let you know what they say. Like I think that's the worst case scenario here. Alien, a girl named Tom. I'm not ready. Yeah, a lot of us aren't ready. But just if you know, I love all you guys. Just look into it. So you're not gonna be shell shocked. Ooh.
Got a few more things. I don't know. This made me think of this. Some people commented this today. I already did.
I love this.
Tech tweets tweet made me think of this.
Here's stuff I love. Imagine your vision is totally normal, and then one day you see demonic features everywhere on people only, just like this, what you see behind me. Now, that's a reality for a man named Victor Shera. He has extremely rare yet terrifying disorder called PMO, and it's commonly known as, or now known because people didn't know about it at first. It's called the demon face syndrome. People with the condition see parts of other people's faces distorted in shape, texture, position, or color. For Shera, that means grotesque.
So that was this year, right? I just feel like in the context of everything, I'm just a little sus of it, not gonna lie, right? We're hearing people say they walk among us, they're demons, they're reptilians, and then now we have the news telling us, hey, there's this new syndrome out there where people see demons in faces. So if you see a demon face in your vicinity, don't freak out.
Dude, here's what I'm gonna do if I see a demon face. Flat out. Here's my approach. I am going to check my pulse. I'm gonna make sure I'm not having a stroke. I am not gonna say anything to anybody. Then I'm gonna go get a couple tests done. Once I'm cleared with a good bill of health, I'm going to keep my eyes peeled. Number one, if you see something like this, definitely consult a doctor, mental health professional. Number two, if you're normal and you see something like this, document it, let us know, because this is crazy. I really am totally sus of this. It's a syndrome. Are you sure? Like, are you sure, dude? Like, prove that. Walk me through this syndrome. Show me the people who have it. Let's see through their eyes, right? Let's see through their eyes. Like, oh, dude, Obi Fleck, good to see you, Obi, in the space, bro. Hell yeah. Pfizer has a pill for demon face syndrome. I'm sure they do. It's a mask over your eyes.
That's why they made mask a thing, so that way we're not freaked out.
Oh my God. Oh.
Believe a case. Okay, so Robert Bigelow said to me, they're walking among us. I said, what do you mean they're walking among us? I said, they're walking among us. They live right here, kind of thing. So again,
walk among us, bro. They're demons, bro.
Eerie.
I think we have one more, but this clip might get us flagged.
Do you believe in aliens?
I'm absolutely convinced. That's all there is to it.
Do you also believe that UFOs have come to Earth?
There has been and is an existing presence, an ET presence. And I spent millions and millions. I probably spent more as an individual than anybody else in the United States has ever spent on this subject.
Risky for you to say, in public that you believe in UFOs and aliens?
I don't care.
You don't worry that some people will say, did you hear that guy? He sounds like he's crazy.
I don't care.
Why not?
It's not going to make a difference. It's not going to change reality.
This is my opinion. I think that's the biggest flex, the biggest nuts on the table scene that exists in modern ufology is this interview here. He says it with such confidence. He doesn't care. He's laying it out. And I just think it's like it's such a huge moment. You know what I mean? It's no nonsense. And I love it. I love him for that. Yeah, so I've probably spent more money than anyone. Dude, what a flex, dude. He's like, yeah, I know what I'm talking about. It's like, all right, dude, I haven't spent like fucking, I don't think I've spent more than $1,000, dude, like on this thing. And that includes subscriptions and media.
You believe in aliens?
I'm absolutely convinced. That's all there is.
Damn. Real quick, I want to play one other clip. I just want to play one more.
I think we should close out with that, the Carla Turner one.
Yes. Okay. So Carla Turner is a UFOologist, a abduction researcher. In the early 90s, she talked to hundreds of abductees about their experience, and she developed a top 10 list for this MUFON symposium she spoke at in like 90 whatever, right? So she speaks at it and she gives the top 10 list. Her number 10 is what I'm going to go over right now. Her number 10 fact about the alien presence in the abduction scenario.
And this is the last in my short list of facts. It is a fact that the aliens show a mysterious interest in the human soul. Now, this part of the phenomenon is so rarely discussed in public that I don't think we really have a good pool of data to proceed on a serious discussion, but I'd like to bring it up because it is a fact that the interest is there and mysterious, and we should be concerned about it.
You heard it there. You heard it there first, and we're hearing it again and again. This week has been nuts. I'm glad you guys were here. for it and for this recap. I want to thank, dude, we got to thank everybody. The super chats tonight were crazy. Dan Freeman, thank you. Alana, thank you so much for being a member, for being here. Courage First with the $50 dono, bro. Like, that means so much to us. It's support, but it's also like,
I think Dan
it's encouragement.
accidentally sent the same super chat twice, so thank you, Dan, for that. And
Yeah, we'll give you two thanks. And a special shout out next show. We got Pizza Slayer to F the UAP cult. We got $10. Fuck yeah, dude. Pizza Slayer, we won't let you down. And we got a new member, Thomas Souls. Thomas, thanks for being here. I love Deadpool. Love your profile picture. Guys, this is another amazing Friday. I want everybody to have an amazing weekend. Look up in the sky, spot a UFO, touch some grass, live it up. We'll see you guys on Monday. We might have some uploads coming in this weekend. Keep an eye out on Skyfire News. And, of course, you can find me and Red in UFO Twitter land, where we often host spaces, participate in spaces, and do investigations kind of publicly. I mean, we're posting videos and clips all the time. If you don't follow Skyfire News on Twitter, please do. If you don't follow us and subscribe to Skyfire YouTube, pop over here. Give us a follow. Be ready. Put notifications on. We are pumping out content and daily news as much as we can, as fast as we can, because we love it. Thank you guys for your support. Oh, we got another super chat. Hold on. Too early. Okay, let's see. That's a good question, too. But first.
So nowadays I'm all about the fatty. You better get some. Too busy hating, ain't getting none. Me, I'm all about the fatty. They getting none. Me, I'm all about the fatty. Yeah, they ain't ready for.
If you want to find out what I believe, go to my YouTube channel, look up Shadows of the Invisible Sun, and watch that documentary. It's a little piece I put together. There's a part 2 you can find on Twitter, but if you like part 1, you might get an idea about where I'm coming from on this. Again, I've been following Gary Nolan and his work for over 2 years, and I think he's onto something. I think it's a psychological, spiritual, physical phenomenon that's going on, and it's one that we need a lot of different schools of thought to be able to really grasp a good concept around. It can't just be one thing. You know, that's my belief. What about you, Red? I agree. You're muted, by the way. There you are.
I think this is a cool clip. Let's see. Maybe we'll close out with it. It's still kind of long, but I don't think it'll get flagged because I think it's just audio.
Hell yeah.
But I do think, like, I know John Lear's like a hella dissimple guy, but I think he touches on a lot of things here that I resonate with. If it's the clip I'm thinking of, let's see.
We're talking about what we now have called the John Lear disclosure briefing, and you know, Art was talking about, okay, what if the government asked me, Art Bell, to sit in on a disclosure meeting about UFOs, and then I had to make a decision on whether I was going to tell all of you just whether they were here or not, real or not. What would I do? Very compelling, and I want you to just listen to this because it'll set the stage for tonight's interview with John Lear.
Okay, let's say the government chose me. They were going to use me as an outlet to release this information. Let's just say they did that and they took me to a briefing. Then what, John?
Okay, we whisked you to, or they whisked you to Washington, D.C. You get limoed to this building, beautiful building. You go up into this room. They say, Art, you're the guy. If you give us the go-ahead, we're going to release everything we know to the public. And if you decide to go ahead, all major networks will be provided with information on all aspects of the cover-up. No type of information will be withheld because of the deal for immunity for all participants of the cover-up provides that nothing, no artifact, no piece of information be withheld. So here's what happened, Art. And of course, this we'll use some videos and stills. Our first UFO recoveries were in the late 30s. We made a couple in the beginning of the 40s, and then came Roswell, which the public found out about. We got 2 live aliens from Roswell. One died shortly thereafter. One lived until 1956. And we found out that so far there are 18 different alien species that we know about monitoring Earth. Some are good, some are hostile. Most are indifferent. We found out that we are the experiment or product, if you will, of an alien race who we never met and really don't know who they are. All we know is that the Greys are cybernetic organisms, glorified robots, if you will, who work here at the behest of their employers, monitoring us through abductions. We were never able to find out what the experiment is all about, except that we have been externally corrected about 65 times, and they, the aliens, refer to us as containers. There has been speculation that the souls our bodies contains is the reason for the experiment, but nothing has been proven or determined. Since 1938, we have lost over 200 aircraft to UFO hostilities and thousands of soldiers in all kinds of different kinds of action with aliens. Since that time, several 100,000 civilians have disappeared with no trace. Several thousand were eliminated by us because of their chance encounters with aliens, which we could ill afford to have publicized. A slightly more frightening phenomenon known as human mutilations have occurred on a regular basis and are similar to the cattle mutilations in that the humans are taken from the street, so to speak, and returned to the same area about 45 minutes to an hour later, with their rectums cored out, their genitals removed, their eyes removed from their sockets, and completely drained of blood. In all cases, it appears that the mutilation procedures occurred while the persons were still alive and conscious. One of our scientists speculated that apparently the human specimens had to be alive for the samples to be worth anything. Abductions occur on a daily basis throughout the United States to at least 10% of the population. And when we first became aware of this, we protested to the little gray being that we held in the captivity at the YY-2 facility at Los Alamos. But a deal was struck that in exchange for advanced technology from the aliens, we would allow them to abduct a very small number of persons, and we would be periodically given a list of those persons abducted. We got something less than the technology we bargained for and found that the abductions exceeded by 1,000,000-fold what we had naively agreed to. In 1954, President Eisenhower met with a representative of another alien species at Muroc Test Center, which is now called Edwards Air Force Base. This alien suggested that they could help us get rid of the Greys, but Eisenhower turned down their offer because they offered no technology. At this point, it became apparent to all involved that there was no such thing as a God, at least as the public perceives God. Certainly some kind of computer recorder stores information, and an occasional miracle is displayed by the aliens to influence a religious event. So this so unnerved Eisenhower that he had "In God We Trust" put on paper money and coins and put into the Pledge of Allegiance to reaffirm the public belief in God. Shortly after this, it was determined at meetings between the U.S. and Russians that the situation was serious enough that a Cold War should be manufactured as a ruse to divert attention of the public away from UFOs and towards some other scary threat, the H-bomb.
Wow.
It was also decided to keep the ruse secret from any elected or appointed official within both the U.S. and Russian government, as long as it took so long to vet these officials, and the ruse was easier to manage if the top people didn't know about it. In the late 1950s, NASA was formed to compartmentalize, containerize, and sanitize information from all space platforms and vehicles. We sold NASA to the public, claiming that all information would belong to them. Actually, they got very little, and even that was highly sanitized. Our first efforts were to keep the public from learning about Venus, and that it's a similar planet to Earth, and that its population is very similar to us, but more technologically advanced. We have learned a lot from them. Starting with the Russian Venera 1 and U.S. Mariner 2, we made Venus look like a lead-melting volcanic surface spewing sulfuric acid into a pressurized atmosphere 90 times that of Earth. And was often the case we overdid it and wondered why no one ever asked how a parachute survived a descent into 800-degree air. We set up operations in Pine Gap, Australia to preclude any prying eyes trying to figure out what we were up to. We regularly eliminated, through extreme prejudice, anybody who was part of the operation and made the least little tiny threat about disclosure or satisfaction with the operation. Any space mission that included Mercury, Gemini, Apollo, Mariner, Voyager, Clementine, and all the rest, all data initially came transmitted to Pine Gap, and then it was relayed to JPL or wherever after the sanitizing. We had a little trouble with amateur radio operators, but we figured out when they figured out how they could intercept these signals, but we managed to deal with that. When the Russian threat began to fade, we introduced Vietnam, which kept the public occupied for over 10 years. The cover-up and the personnel to run the operation began to get bigger and bigger and required more and more money. We were enforced to inflate the defense budget, which soon was not enough. Then we got into the drug business, which was still not enough. We were the ones that looted the savings and loan industry and Wall Street to boot. It is so out of control now, most people want immunity and want out. But there is so much secrecy and so many double and triple blinds in place that it is unlikely that this thing can ever be dismantled. And even if you give us the go-ahead to spill the beans to the public, it's unlikely they will get anything more than, yes, we recovered a flying saucer, and yes, there was an occupant, but that's all we're going to tell you. So go ahead and roll the tape for Mr. Bell.
Okay, I think that's where it stops.
Damn.
Actually, I'd say
Epic.
about like 60%, maybe 55 of that. But I think he just hit on some really big points that I do agree with.
That was awesome. I like Lear. R.I.P. to John Lear.
Have you heard that
what I
before,
mean?
by the way?
No, I've never heard that. And I love Art
shit,
Bell
what do you
too,
think
so
of
that
that?
was awesome. No, I loved it. I mean, that was a lot of information, but yeah, I got to agree. I got to say that there's truth to a lot of that stuff. It seems like anyway. But shout out to Lear, man. Good selection on that, Red. Good selection. All right. I think that wraps up the show. That was the week. And, some deep history. But, we like to go down that road. We love to go down that road. Find us on Twitter. Follow us on Twitter. Like and subscribe to the channel. We love you guys. Have a great weekend. And we'll see you out there in the world. See you on Monday.
Peace out, y'all.
Peace out.
We was chopping down trees in an Arizona forest, cutting off the sleeves of my work shirt. It was too hot to breathe and I wasn't going for it. We hit the road looking for a cheap skirt. And on that road we saw a light coming up the mountain. I got out the truck without a fight. The other guys kept shouting, Travis, don't go to that flying saucer floating there. Travis, you fucking idiot, are you blind, do you care? That there's a spaceship right above us and you don't seem to question. Then they took Travis walking into another dimension. Travis, where'd you go? We wanna know because the whole town thinks we killed you, but we didn't kill you. Ooh. He's doing his best. He's knocking on the right door.
Happy birthday to Matt Ford. Matt Ford's birthday. Here's your song, Matt.
All the right words, all the right words. Oh Lord, Matt Ford. In 2022, Matt was not around. Ufology. What did he do to get so far with the loop? Parasitology. Oh Lord, Matt Ford. You claim Green Street attacked Tim's fam. Well, damn. So were you telling the truth or bending the truth? We got the posts and we're gonna show them. Why didn't you show them that? Matt, did your evidence? Why is that? What did you do that for? What's up, Matt? Who the hell is Matt Ford? He's doing his best. He's knocking on the right doors. He's getting the guests and saying all the right words. Who they write for? Oh Lord, Matt Ford. Yeah, you claim Green Street attacked Tim's fam. Well, damn. So were you telling the truth or bending the truth? We got the posts and we're gonna show them. Why didn't you show them, Matt? Matt, did you show evidence? Why is that? What did you do that for? What's up, Matt? Who the hell is Matt Ford? He's doing his best. He's knocking on the right door. He's getting the guests and saying all the right words. Who they write for?
This is Skyfire News, the best UFO show on the internet. Skyfire News is on the internet. Skyfire News. Skyfire News.
I hate Skyfire News. I hate Skyfire News.